Are you guys familiar with the top 10 highest damage bloodlines in Shindo Life? No? Right? Well, don't worry, because today you're going to find them all. So let's begin. Number 10, Scorch. This will be a massive surprise for you people in case you haven't been keeping up with the meta and the recent changes. It involves a ability which does a huge damage, and the second one does damage to the extent of 22,000. It might seem less, but it's only on a 4-second cooldown. You're free to just run here and there, and you can utilize the third ability as well that does 62,000 damage. Whoa, that's a lot. When all three abilities combine, they form an unmolded damage. Number 9, Tensa Sengoku. Tensa Sengoku literally does tons of damage. The first ability is one of the highest single damage abilities in the game and does 65k damage at burst. And it's actually beaten by one ability, or you can say one mode, but there's no doubt in it that it does plenty of damage. The enemy in the game is also capable of causing lots of damage, and when it hits you, it'll be a counter ability, but it would only do 60k damage, which is definitely not that bad. You also have the C-Spec in the game, which does a lot of damage to the enemy and is a giant damage burst in a real sense. Number 8, Narumaki. The third ability of this bloodline is obviously super high damage ability, and it's capable of causing 100k. Whoa, now that's something that's too much. The second ability, which is a block breaker, also does tons of damage, which reaches the limit of 25k. And then comes the first ability, and it also does damage of 60k. Here, you also have the facility of C-Spec, which you can utilize to do immense damage. Number 7, Forged Rengoku. The Z-Spec in this bloodline is one of the highest damage mode specs in the whole game. All the shortcuts that are a part of this bloodline do a lot of damage, and of course the weapon spec is going to be a massive damage burst as it does 60 to 70k damage. There is a statue that does only 5k damage in one go, but the best thing is that you can actually move the statue, and this is how it can do damage at different spots, and in total there can be 40 to 50k damage caused by it, which is really good for sure. Number 6, Minakaze. The next one we have is Minakaze, which is one of the highest damage bloodlines in the game. The second ability of this bloodline does 20k damage, and not only once, but twice. Then there's also a C-Spec gear that slams down, and it is a block breaker. It also has the capability of doing around 40k damage, and it can be thrown over for generating more damage. Number 5, Shindai Rengoku. The first ability contains a 2 damage burst, whereas the second one might sometimes dodge you by not hitting the exact target. But it does a decent amount of damage, as C-Spec is involved, and M1s are also there for creating damage. Moreover, the weapon spec does too much damage as well. Everything about this bloodline is damage, damage, and only damage. Number 4, Raikon Shizen. This bloodline is capable of doing extreme damage. The first ability does a lot of damage in several routes, and each of the routes does about 17k damage. The main damage ability in this bloodline is the C-Spec, and when you do the C-Spec on somebody, it does too much damage on that enemy. Number 3, Kamaki. On number 3, we have Kamaki. Many people are unfamiliar with Kamaki, and that's a huge loss for them because they have no idea what extent it can cause damage to the adversary. The first ability of this bloodline does 60k damage, but the second ability is the one from where all the damage comes in. The second ability involves 5 cubes, and it actually does 33,000 damage, and overall, it's a big damage ability. Furthermore, the third damage ability does a quick 40k damage bursting. And then there's a C-Spec, which is a counter ability and has a power to do immense damage. Number 2, Alpha Rama Shizen. As the ability increases, the damage also increases. The first ability causes tons of damage, the second one then causes even more damage, and lastly, the third ability's damage is extreme. The Black Flames incorporated in this bloodline also do huge damage. The M1s, the throwables, and the weapon spec altogether do great damage too. Number 1, Karada. At the top of the list, there is Karada. It is the single highest and single damage ability in the game. And guess what? It does 100k damage, which is absolutely stunning. M1's first ability and the second ability of Karada are all able to create massive damage. This bloodline is always on fire when it comes to doing damage. So which bloodline do you like the most? Let us know in the comments.